I wanted the three of us to have a healthy lifestyle and to not worry about money. And I didn't want that to happen in like 10 to 15 years in the selfish way. I wanted to have that happen in like 3 to 5 years. I wanted, us to have a lifestyle that supported us, and not like we have big crazy needs or anything, but we wanted to make a good salary. We felt we deserved because we worked really hard in our business, and we felt like we needed to be compensated for that.
Provide a great service, and we were just trying to make sure that we made money while
yeah, and you want to do something you love, creating beautiful spaces, but you don't want to starve doing it. I just want to normalize what you're saying. I mean, that is totally what business should be. Anything else is a glorified hobby.
But we're in our mid-20s to late 20s. I didn't want to get to that point in our mid-30s.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to get there a lot faster.
You wanted to work smarter, not harder, and accelerate that whole path of like, let's figure out where we're being inefficient and not doing things the right way and fix it up. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Cost of Doing Business show. I'm your host, Weston Zimmerman, and I am here with the fine folks from Toys Landscaping and Frank Bourque from Ontario is down here visiting us. So both Frank and I have had the pleasure of working with the fine gentleman here at Toys Landscaping for the last couple months. Frank has done some consulting for them, and by inherently from that, they have started using SynkedUP in their business. And we just had a great time spending the day together here, checking out their jobs, learning about their businesses and the things that they have done in the last year to grow. And Greg, so what we have here is Greg, which is the dad. And then we have Ryan and Cody. And then there's another brother and another sister, right? Is that correct? And they're all in the business, except for the sister?
Everyone but the sister.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, we're here in Wexford, Pennsylvania, and I just wanted to bring Greg and his boys on here onto the podcast because it's just plain and obvious from the time we spent together here that they have a story that's worth sharing. And I want to try to bring that to the show here so that you all can listen and observe and gain some wisdom from Greg here that's been at it for many, many years. So welcome to the show, Greg.
Yep, thank you, Weston.
Glad
you spent the day with us since we've met Frank and he's led us on to you. Things have changed a lot for us, and we've come a long way in a short amount of time.
Well, that's fantastic. There's nothing that fills me with more joy and purpose than hearing that. And tell me about the first 20-some years in business before you made these changes. Like, what was that like? How did you get started, and what was that story? Just take a minute and talk about that.
Start like most people. I was working for a lawn care company spraying lawns. And back in those days, in the early 90s, late 80s, people didn't pay to have their grass mowed, mostly older people. So, I'd be out treating lawns, and people would say, do you know anybody can mow my grass? Do you know anybody can mow my grass? So one thing led to another, and I started mowing them on it for extra money for, probably for drinking money back in the college days. So, but I would do them in the evenings. I'd come home on the weekends and work on them, and I'd end up building myself, quite a nice clientele. And so I graduated from college, and I went out and was interviewing, and I realized that I was making more, mowing grass than they were offering me on most jobs that I interviewed for.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to try this and see how it goes for a while. And so, I did it for a couple years, and my dad was a coal miner and my brother was a coal miner, and we were just, they were just old school, just go to work and, put your 8 hours in and call it a day. And so, I'd be at it, and they'd say, when are you going to get a real job? When are you going to get a real job? It's time to get a real job. And I'm like, nah, I was determined to make it work. And that's to me what separates most people is, you have to have extreme determination to make it, because things get ugly. They're not all, everyone thinks, oh, he's self-employed and oh, he's making all kinds of money, and you think you're making money because you're getting all these checks, but you don't realize sometimes that you've spent more than what you've brought in. So that's the biggest difference over the years, that I've noticed, that back then you didn't have Franks and you didn't have people with SynkedUP. You didn't have anybody you could turn to and say, hey, what, I'm charging $30 an hour. Is that enough? Or, hey, well, how are you doing this or that? So you had to learn by, just by getting out there and doing it. You had to learn by mistakes, fixing your mistakes.
And just hope that those mistakes didn't put you under.
Right. And hope that you could work through your mistakes because, you're learning. So you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And one thing that I was always determined is, I'm the first one that screws up every day, but I'm going to fix what I screw up. And that's what's going to separate us from the next person. You don't try to hide something, because that small thing ends up being a large thing.
Amen.
So I did the mowing thing, then you do what everyone does, you do the leaf removal. You end up, buying the snow plow, you're doing the snow removal, and next thing you know, I had an opportunity. I end up, an older gentleman liked me, and he gave me a piece of land in a high traffic area, and I built a garden center. I had a garden center with a glass greenhouse and a gift shop, a florist. We had 5 greenhouses that we grew in, and a nursery, and of course, the bulk bin type thing. But I've had a lot of health issues, and it come to a point where I had to make a decision on, where are we making money? Are we really making money on the retail? And we weren't. By the time you put the show on and you employed the people to watch the show and operate it, you realized you weren't really making any money. So that's when I came to the hard decision, because that was my dream, that we sold our retail location and then we just concentrated on landscaping, because that's where it was. So back then, you still didn't have anyone you could really turn to. So how you taught yourself was you'd go to, I went to a lot of trade shows in Columbus, in King of Prussia. They used to have them in Maryland. And, then you just grabbed catalogs and you would just look at those catalogs and you just taught yourself. And then you'd see something you like and you'd rip the page out and you'd save it and you'd say, that's how I taught myself the business. I self-taught myself. And I just love plants, and I would just, when I would go, I just was, I couldn't wait to go to work, and I hated to quit every day.
Well, that is passion right there.
Yeah, and I just, I love what I do. I can't, you hear these athletes say, I can't believe anyone pays me to do this. Yeah. That's how I feel about what I had the opportunity to do. And so, I surrounded myself, as we kept building this, I surrounded myself with really good people, which some of them have been with us for over 20 years, 15 to 20 years, a lot of them. And, we've just always tried to build like a culture of a family culture where, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to tolerate, people talking about each other behind your back. Life's hard. We all have to work. Unfortunately, we're going to get along and we're going to make the best of it. And, that's always been my theory, and it's worked well for us. And so the problem is, and the biggest mistake, if I had to go back in time and do it, you think you're the smartest person. You're the only one that can lay things out. You're the only one that can bid. You're the only one that can do the book work, and you're the only one that can invoice. And, and that's a huge mistake. If I had to do everything all over again, I would hire some help just to know your numbers, because knowing your numbers is where it's at. That, I don't care if you're painting houses or putting fences up or whatever. You have to know at the end of the day, where your time was spent and if you made any money on that time.
Yeah, that's exactly what it comes down to. And like, a friend of mine told me one time, like, I forget where he heard it. It was a quote like where, you can't shovel your way to profitability.
Correct.
If you've got your numbers wrong, it's like the concept of, we'll sell under cost and make it up on volume.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way, does it?
No.
So,
we just So you know, I did everything with, you know, until Ryan joined us 3 years ago. You know, I was still doing everything on 8.5 by 11 legal pads. You know, little notes. I had 30 notes here. Then I couldn't find my notes.
Yeah.
And the guys were tracking their materials by handwriting. And then, you know, there's a reason they work for you. You know, they don't want to do paperwork and do stuff. So, you know, you would have to go back to the job and check things because they wouldn't have things right.
Right.
And, you know, so in today's world with the SynkedUP and, you know, having Frank as the consultant, it just totally changed our world. It just, you know, now we know where we're at. We know who did what, you know how much time they spent on it. You know, before, you know, we'd go to a job and the guys never knew where we were going till I got there. And then when they got there, I'd say, well, this is what we're going to do, you know, and we kind of would just lay it out then, you know, and now, you know, now we hand them, you know, binders, and it's got a 3D image on it. It has a material list that, you know, and it has, you know, how many hours it's going to take and how they're going to do it. And you know, and all that's come from, a lot of it's come from, you know, the SynkedUP and from you know, just having that ability to put all that on, you know, on paper and give it to them. And Frank, you know, has been wonderful. He's the one that led us to you and
Some other good resources.
other good resources.
Yep.
And you know,
Well, let's talk about that. Like, Frank, tell me about the first time you met Greg.
Well, I met the whole crew as a kind of as a unit, wanting to improve the business in many different ways, and kind of looking to see, you know, what's out there in our industry that we can leverage as a company where we're at right now to go to the next level, right? So in this stage of business, with Ryan, Cody, and Jesse wanting to be part of the business, it kind of changed everything for the business. 'Cause, you know, it's like, okay, we know we probably have to have more revenue come in for us to be all part of overhead. So how do we put everything in order, right?
You were going from Greg, you were just running the business, and now your three boys wanted to come in,
Right.
and it was like, well, that's 3 more payrolls.
Right.
You know, how are we going to be able to grow the business enough to pay that?
right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think they were coming in with that in mind, saying, hey, Frank, what would you suggest for a case like this? And so that's where the conversation started. And then we got talking about a lot of things, including like business management software that would keep everything organized, how to keep a job organized, how to track stuff on a job site, material, job costing. These are all conversations that I think every company has with a consultant when they come in. So this kind of led one conversation to the other. And I think that's where the team realized, okay, we have a few investments to make, but then it all started to pay off, because I think all you need after you know about the resources is to actually use it, right? And there's a lot of effort, obviously, that goes into implementing new software. And I think on that end, you guys did it so you knew, okay, someone's going to be in the office and focus on these numbers in the office, and someone's going to be on the field and get everyone trained and onboarded on the new application softwares that we're using. By doing the work, it has worked. And I see a lot of companies giving up too soon. And I think this is where Toys Landscape said, no, we're going all in. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it the right way. And we're going to put in all the effort. And just in the short period of 12 months, we've seen a lot of things transform, right, guys? From, you know, the office side to operations to the purchases you've made to just
Right,
being
there's a
able
Unilift on here, the job. I'm assuming that's new?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. It's like, Frank must be consulting these guys.
That was one of the first larger investments we've made, honestly. Was like,
Really?
Well-
we've got that before in most of our stuff.
Really? Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Cody and Ryan, can you tell the audience here just briefly, like, how you remember growing up in the business, but then how you wanted, like, hey, I want to come in here and I want to help grow this business. Let's make it a family thing. How did that story unfold?
I knew I started watering flowers probably when I was a teenager, and unfortunately a lot of plants died that day, that summer.
That summer.
And then, you know, every kid needs money, so then Greg put me on the mowing crew, and shoot, we worked a lot of hours, 50, 60 hours a week, and it kind of taught me how to work, how to handle customers.
Yeah, that's an art.
Yeah, that's
Especially
definitely
when
an
you're a
art.
teenager, right?
Yeah.
And the foreman, I mean, he taught me how to work for sure. I mean, we'd put in 50, 60 hours a week, and he kind of showed me how to keep moving even if you were tired. He was kind of he was a I don't know how to put it.
Slave driver?
He was a slave driver. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of good lessons there.
Yeah.
I think
And
every
then,
kid needs one of them, right?
I went to Penn State for healthcare, which is funny because I'm in landscaping now. But
No kidding. I knew you went to Penn State, but I didn't know it was for
so
healthcare.
this foreman ended up quitting, so I eventually took over as the lawn maintenance foreman, and then Ryan came back, and I knew I wanted to do more than just be a foreman, so not only the landscape and lawn maintenance manager, I'm a landscape salesman as well.
He wears lots of different hats.
And I run the marketing.
Yep.
Marketing coordinator. You know, we all wear a ton of hats in
Yeah.
this company, but I know me and Ron were up for the town.
Yeah.
It's been a fun ride, ups and downs, like everybody.
That's business.
But like we're sitting on a wall that Ryan sold. It's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, exactly. We're sitting in this beautiful backyard. It's probably like 80% done, 90% done, and it's pretty awesome to stand back and look at a creation like this and know that your guys had fun building it, and know that you're going to walk home with enough of money to pay the bills, you know, and earn a little profit for the company. And yeah, it's nothing's worse than coming into this point in the project and just knowing that you got killed on it. You know.
That and I can't be fired.
Yeah. Well, moving on to the brother that can't fire you, let's talk to Ryan. So Ryan, tell us how, I know you were out of the business on another job for a while.
Yeah, I grew up, I mean, when Greg started the business, I was the firstborn, and they were figuring out how to, figuring out their way in life and figuring out their business, and I was kind of always there in the cradle in the background. So as they grew as entrepreneurs, I kind of grew as a kid too. So it was cool because I've been there for almost the whole time. I'm similar to Greg in a lot of ways, and I think he did touch on it earlier. Well, the reason he wanted the landscape business is he's selfish and he wanted to be his own boss. And I follow that a little bit. I'm a little bit selfish in some ways.
Yeah, I can get on the board with that. That sounds like a good reason.
I worked in the business until I graduated college, and I wanted to go out and prove to myself that I could thrive in doing something else that wasn't in the family business. So I went out. I worked got my degree in civil engineering. And got a job working for a heavy civil construction firm. Learned a lot of great stuff with project management, how to deal with people, cost control, and those sorts of things. And then about 4 years in, I mean, it was a pretty intense schedule there too. I mean, I was working 50, 60 hours a week, not too different from what Greg's doing as a business owner. And he was having health issues at the time, and we kind of talked about it. And I was getting a little fed up with my role, and he's like, if you're going to work this hard, why not come back? I need your help. I don't think I can keep doing this with the way my health's going. I want you to join the team, and we'll figure out how to do this. So that was about, 3.5 years ago, and that first year, we don't think either of us really knew what I needed to do or how to do it, but we knew that I was not going to be a production-related person. I needed to be some sort of management, and so we started working on all sorts of systems. We started bookkeeping and got a different accountant, and started a little bit with budgeting and some stuff, and kind of grew to the point where we were doing better. Just the fact that we had somebody kind of quarterbacking back in the office. And then we decided we're making progress, we're doing well, we're doing better than we were before. When we talked let's I asked him, I'm like, hey, I don't want to do this the hard way for a real long time. Can we find somebody to help me, help these guys? And reached out to Frank, and we want so he could help us fast track and get ahead where we were.
And what was like when you reached out to Frank? Like, what was in your mind as I want to try to achieve, or I want to bring about an outcome? Like, what was in your head when you reached out to Frank?
Well, I just decided, and I wanted the three of us to have a healthy lifestyle and to not worry about money. And I didn't want that to happen in like 10 to 15 years in the selfish way. I wanted to have that happen in like 3 to 5 years. I wanted, us to have a lifestyle that supported us, and not like we have big, crazy needs or anything, but, we wanted to make a good salary. We felt we deserved because we worked really hard in our business, and we felt like we needed to be compensated for that.
We provide a great service, and we were just trying to make sure that we made money.
Well, yeah, and you want to do something you love, creating beautiful spaces, but you don't want to starve doing it.
No.
You don't want to be living in financial stress doing it, right?
Not when you're outside working.
Yeah, no, there's like, I just want to normalize what you're saying. I mean, that is totally what business should be.
Yeah.
Anything else is a glorified hobby.
Yeah.
But, we're in our mid-20s to late 20s. I didn't want to get to that point in our mid-30s.
Exactly.
I wanted to get there a lot faster, and that was a big reason we were pushing on.
So that you wanted to kind of accelerate. You didn't want to have to throw your whole working life into making and arriving at. You wanted to work smarter, not harder, and accelerate that whole path of like, let's figure out where we're being inefficient and not doing things the right way and fix it up.
Yeah. And I think when you have like determination like Greg has, and you turn that into working smarter, you can really do some great things for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's there's something about outside perspective. I don't care how good you are, how talented you are, how experienced you are. There is something about outside perspective in challenging you in the way that some things that you assume or things that it's because we always done it that way, that it's really, really refreshing and healthy.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is Frank is giving us confidence, not only in ourselves but in our company. We don't just feel like a bunch of schmucks running around.
We're not schmucks, but you get days that you feel like that. You make a mistake, and it's nice to someone that comes in every once in a while. It's like, hey, just keep doing what you're doing, guys. Like, you're doing fine, and it gives us it's helped because it's given us a renewed sense of purpose. When we meet with him once a month.
I worked for a guy, his grandfather started a nursing home, and then his dad ran the nursing home, and now he's running the nursing home. And I said to him, hey, my kids, are going to, step into my business. I said, at what point did you feel like the business was yours and not your dad's anymore? He said, it was when I got to make my own decision, and I got to, and did something, and it was something that I determined. He said, then I felt like it was my own. So when they started to come get involved, I kind of stepped back, and I thought, they're only going to learn by doing it. I didn't try to meddle. If they came to me and asked me questions, I would give my opinion, but I would also let them just kind of did I think Frank was worth the money? No, I'm old school. Do I think that, no offense to him, but, that's not how I think. I'm a repurposer. I'm a person that started with nothing, and
you'll fix it with barbed wire and bubble gum.
We there was times where we parked trucks and we had to make sure we parked on the hill because they wouldn't start. We had to coast them. So
on the right hill, the brake wasn't working.
Right. So when they came to me and said, we want to do this or that, and I'm like, I just let them do it because I figured it's theirs. There's only one way they're going to learn. They're going to have to figure it, just get in there and do it and figure it out for themselves. And so I let it become theirs. I kind of just stepped back and said, hey, this is yours now, you guys.
So you're a real living like your story is a real living example of like going from, which is probably 90% of the industry, saying, no, I don't need a coach. It's not worth the money.
Right.
And here we are, what, roughly a year later?
Yes.
And now, what would you say now? What would you say to yourself a year ago?
I'm like, you dummy, you should have did this 20 years ago. You know, you could have, you know, and I have everything in life. I have attained more than I ever thought I'd ever have.
Sure.
And I don't need a fancy car, and I just want good people and good times. And, but, you know, I could be so much more secure in my life, you know, if I'd have had a guy like Frank 20 years ago. I'd be in such a better place. Because where we've come in just a year is just truly amazing.
It is incredible. Like going, what is it, 20 or 20, is it 30? How many years is it?
20 some years.
Yeah, 20 some years of, I don't know, is it fair to say breaking even or just eking along? And
yeah, just, you know, we survived. You know, I put 4 kids through college.
Sure.
You know, I raised a family.
That's not breaking even. That's,
yeah,
you're
you
making
know.
Yeah, but that was all done by will, you know.
Sure.
And that's not sustainable. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty.
I mean, here you are at the end of your major working life, you know, and it's like, well, you've done that, but it's
time to you
Yeah.
know, do it easier.
right,
You know,
exactly.
I would leave home at 6:30, 7 in the morning, and go home at whatever time it gets dark, 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever.
Wow.
You know, that's how I worked.
And that can I kind of contrast that? Like, so I'm assuming that is what you don't want for your families.
Correct.
You don't want to work till 9.
We still couldn't work there.
Okay.
But that's because we want to, in a lot of the cases now, not necessarily because we have to.
And that's a different story.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a different story. But
Which I just love this story because this is exactly, I know this sounds cliche and all that, but that's exactly what's in our, like, when we sit around our team meetings, we're like, listen guys, we're not selling buttons. We are selling the possibility for for business owners to provide better lives for their families and their teams. Like, at the end of the day, that's what it is. Knowing your numbers is how we do it. But to me, the purpose of what we're doing is this exact outcome, which is just fills my heart with joy.
At the contractor summit, it was amazing how many stories are similar to ours.
Yeah.
You know, it's families, it's brothers, it was fathers and sons, it was couples. I mean, it was, what, 50 companies? It felt like 80 people because
Yep.
there was, I don't know, so many people were together, you know.
Yep.
It's just, landscapers are one big family, I guess, you know, it feels like it sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely was a family vibe there.
Because there was a lot of families there.
That's for sure. And that means there's a lot of mortgages, there's a lot of mouths to feed, there's a lot of college tuition. If you're going to college, I mean, there's a responsibility as a business owner that you don't take lightly. You know, going through this whole experience, which a year later, I mean, it's incredible how much progress you've made in a year. And just wait for 3 years, like, you know. But what would you say to, because 90% of the industry, I'm just throwing that off the top of my head, is living in the stage that you were at a couple years ago, where you're like, I don't need that. I can do this in myself. I know best. I'll figure. I'm not going to buy the thing because I'm just going to work harder, so I don't need to buy the thing and somehow make more money out of that deal. What would you say? What's one piece of advice you'd give to the rest of the hardworking landscaping community that's in that state?
I would say, you know, that you don't think you can afford the consultants or the programs or the help, but you can't afford not to have the help, because, you know, we're landscapers. You know, we build rooms, outdoor rooms, and we know plants, and we know block, and we know, you know, we don't necessarily know numbers, and we don't know how to get to the right, you know, we so many times we go in a situation, do a job, and you know, somebody's like bid something, and you're just like, are you crazy? Like, you can't even show up for that, you know? So I know that there's 70% of the people out there, 80%, that don't know the truth, that don't know really where they're at, and they're just out there pushing and pushing and pushing when they wouldn't have to push as hard if they would just go. So my advice is, if you don't think you can afford it, like, it's a big mistake. It's you need help.
It's
Everybody
costing.
needs help. You don't, and I said earlier, you don't always have to be the smart guy. You can hire smart guys and have them help you. You know what I mean? You don't have to have all the answers. Help you get to that point.
That's really good advice, and it's coming from a seasoned, experienced pro. One that's been through the weather of the storm, weathered the storms.
Pure wheel
Yeah.
is how I've got around that.
Some people just, like the old school guys, just change your perspective on it. It's like adding a truck to your fleet in a sense. Like, that's what that does for your business. It's even though it's not a physical, tangible thing.
Yeah.
It brings that sort of value back to your business.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many people out, success coaches or whatever out there, that say it's mindset, and it sounds wishy-washy maybe a little bit, but it really is. Like, you have the ability to it's really easy to convince yourself that, oh, they'll never go for a $20,000 patio, so I'm going to figure out a way to make this for 16. Right. And that's a mindset thing where you're like, no, I know what I do, I know what my customers are, or who my customers are, and I know I know how much I need to do it, and if you can't afford it, then I need to go find the next customer that can. Correct. Those are just mindset games that we play with ourselves.
That's a big thing that has changed too, with like us knowing our production and laying the things out for the guys on with the paperwork and everything is they know how to get things done. And
It's incredible now, like, when you set people up for success, they will surprise you in how well they've done it.
Right.
Once you stop trying to do everything yourself and start, instead of thinking, how do I set everybody else up for success? It's crazy what kind of results you can get. We added a crew this year, and I remember going through, like, 2 years ago when we truly added a third crew and how hard it was. And, like, we were like, I don't know, how are we going to keep up with all this?
Yeah.
But when you start finding systems and processes that help you get your time back and give people the information and get them set up for success, like, it's so much easier than you think.
Yeah.
Well, my biggest fear was when he came, when the both of them came, is, the guys always respected me, and everything was what Greg said or what Greg did. I was the leader, and they would come in and make changes, and people are uncomfortable with changes. They don't like change. So, they come in and, and start handing them, binders saying what they had to do and how long it should take, and here's your materials. And I was nervous. Like, I was nervous everybody was just going to quit and say, I'm not tracking what we're doing on my phone. You crazy? You're not paying me enough to, to sit here and, do this synced up and do this and do that. And so I was a nervous wreck, just because everything always was what I said. And then they come with these new ideas, and I just was like, oh, everybody's going to quit. They're not going to, but it's pretty amazing. Like, they take those binders and they take the information, and they look at it like it's the Bible. They follow it to a T. And sometimes they follow it to a T too much, because we make a mistake.
Yeah, right.
So yeah. But I didn't think it would just go that well, and they've taken it and they've just run with it, and it's just, God, I used to run my butt off to keep up with everybody. All I really was back in the day was a glorified delivery man. Because, I was just trying to, like, get materials to these guys, get these guys what they need, get these guys. Well, now they know what they need, and we gather it before, or we have it there, and, and it's easier.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing so much less than I've ever done.
And the business is making more than it's ever made.
And business is making more than
It's like
ever
magic.
made. It's magic.
Yeah, the hardest part's overcoming that initial fear. And
Yeah,
it's something that
yeah.
a big lesson for us this year.
Yeah.
You know, make the jump, do it once. It's so much worse in your head when you start.
Yeah.
Once you get through that like short-term pain of like implementing something and you get on to it and get used to it, it's not that bad.
So just the old Nike adage, just do it.
Yeah, just do it. I mean, I'm sure it was like this for a lot of people when, like, say, mini excavators became popular in the early
Right.
2000s.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when at Tussey Landscaping, like we were kind of puckered up getting the second mini excavator. Like, can we get enough of work to pay for this thing? You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I used to buy one thing a year, you know, and that I'd wait to the end of the year and I would make a purchase, you know, and then every year, you know, well, this year we've bought 1, 2, 3, you know, we've bought like 4 things, you know, and just this year alone,
That's amazing.
and you know,
But we've costed that into our budget. We have that priced in so that we know that we can afford those things.
Yep. Which
We're not
goes
just
into
doing that because we like shiny things. And
exactly.
We
It's
like
not like
shiny
you're just
things.
putting it all in
Everybody
credit.
does.
Yeah.
Which goes right into the adage of budget for the business you want to be tomorrow, not for the business you were yesterday.
correct.
And then once you have that budget, you have those numbers, you just go and unapologetically charge whatever that budget tells you need to charge. Right. Remove the emotion from it.
Yes.
Well, Frank, let's wrap it up with this. What would you say is the biggest difference from the Ryans, the toy company that you met to who they are today?
Well, if I have to say, they still have the same drive and passion that they had. But I think Cody hit it, you know, bang on when he said, sometimes it's just about the confidence that the resources brings you. So sometimes it's software, sometimes it's a mentor, sometimes a consultant. But when it's someone that you can trust or something that you can trust because it's based on facts and stuff that's really happening in the industry, then you start noticing like, wow, we're doing a lot of great things. Sometimes it's just a matter of doing it in the right order and then implementing it. Yeah. And like you said, unapologetically. Yeah, exactly, thank you. Doing it and charging for what you do. And because if you're bringing the value, you should not ever be ashamed to charge what you need to charge to make a profit, make a good living, and like you guys said, to just run a very good, efficient business where people want to go work. So I think it's just about confidence, and you can get confidence in many ways, but you guys did it by getting the right tools that can track, measure the right things. You've implemented, you've put in the work, and you've asked the right questions. You've really went out in the industry and said, hey, we want to get all the resources we can, and I'm just one thing that you've reached out to, or one person that you've reached out to and said, hey, what about this, what about that, right? But you've done all the work. So really it's all to you guys and all the hard work you've put in. And it's about making time for it. A lot of people say, hey, I just don't have the time, I'm busy. You guys were busy too. You got to find something else to do, but you started putting more time on what really counts. And I think that's the big difference from what I've seen.
And there's something about the snowball effect, that the confidence and the overcoming the fear and just doing it even though you're busy. Like you fear what you don't know, you know? And so when you don't know, like your fear making the jump or making the choice or making the leap, but once you have it down in black and white numbers, like I can tell you, like every time we help people build their budgets when we onboard them into SynkedUP, like most of them just have this huge sense of relief, like this weight falling off their shoulders, like they finally just know the truth.
Yes.
Like the house can be burning down, but at least now you know the house is burning down. You know what I mean?
You can do something about
Yeah,
it.
there's even a sense of relief in that, you know? Because now you have the information that you need to, you know what you need to do.
Yeah, just the front room is burning.
Yeah, you're right.
It was fine tuning, but it wasn't the end of the world. But that's the good news, is you know exactly where you stand. You guys could do something about it. And anything is scary until, like you said, you cross that line, you just make that choice. Yep. But trust yourself too, right? Yeah. If you have the right resources, the right information, and you take the right actions, it will pay off. Yeah. I think everyone's doubt comes from not knowing. Yep. But hey, check the references, ask people who use it. Check with people who have done the dual steps. Mm-hmm. Ask them this question, and then that will build your confidence to do the same, and surround yourself with people who are always taking action in that right direction. Yeah.
And then when you see the results of taking that action, that's where the snowball effect kicks in. And like, you know what, the fear, like, yeah, the last time I felt this fear, I did it anyway, or I checked everything, like you just said, Frank. Then I went ahead with calculated, I'm going to do this, and you become more and more confident because you trust your own intuition and your own fact-finding ability and your own decision-making ability.
And you said it right, snowball effect, because this is year 1. Right. But you guys keep doing this, year 2, year 3, it gets even better, right? You already know what you know, you're building on top of that, and then you're making better investment on a monthly basis in yourself, in your time, the way you're using your time, what you're teaching also to your team. So I think it's going to be great to see what happens with the Toys landscape team in the next few years. So looking forward to it.
With that, Greg, let's close off with this. How would you like to see? What is your hopes and dreams for the Toys Landscaping Company in the next 5 years?
I just want them to be able to create good memories and just feel secure in life. And not, my whole life was because I didn't know all the time what was going on. I spent my whole life worrying about money and cash flow, and I just want them to have that security of making a really nice living, to have a nice life, to create good memories, and to be around good people, and just be able to support themselves and enjoy what they're doing. Because like I said, you have to work. It's 80% of your life. You might as well enjoy what you're doing. And you don't want to be in a factory stamping the same product saying, God, I hate this. You want to be out doing what you love, and that's what I want for them. I just want them to be able to raise a family and give their children what they need and support, and just to have an enjoyable life, and be able to buy the equipment they need and trucks they need and all that. And you're right, the budget. First time I looked at a budget, I'm like, oh, whoa, yeah, we can afford that. We know what I never had a budget. Didn't have time for that. My dad was he was just old school, and he just worked, and I'd be doing paperwork, and he's like, "What are you doing? You can't be doing paperwork. You gotta get out there and work."
The 8x11 sheet was
That's not important. Get out there. We gotta get those shrubs trimmed. So, the fact I overcame, the way I was raised, and nobody had any entrepreneurial blood in their body, or artistic. Genes. Nobody in my family is artistic whatsoever, and the fact that I could see things and build things, and I knew what was nice, is just it amazes me to this day.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's beautiful. That's a pure objective in business, is just to provide a good place for your family to grow up and provide for your family.
I don't want them. My goal for them isn't to, so they can go buy Mercedes and Jaguars, and that'd be nice. But I just want them to be able to live a nice, comfortable life and have what they need to enjoy it.
Yep, that makes sense. Well, thanks a lot for letting me and us pick your brain and absorb some wisdom from your many years of experience. I think these stories, and this is why we do this podcast, is because these stories hold nuggets of gold from people that are just a little bit further behind in their journey and looking for those answers, and every time you can reach back with, hey, I took this action or whatever, and here's what I learned from it, and you should too, you just pull someone else along with you. Yes.
You might have just saved someone 20 years of backbone, hard work. You never know, right?
I just want to say thank you for being a member of the SynkedUP crew.
Yep.
It's an honor to be working with you guys, and it's an honor to be a part of your story. Right. And I can't wait to hear what Toys is doing in 2 or 3 years after this. So appreciate it.
We appreciate it too. I mean, we appreciate where SynkedUP has taken us, and it's like I said, it's given. Some days I feel guilty, like I haven't done enough. You know?
Yeah.
Because I'm not
You have
used
to go play office or
I'm
something.
not used to that. Like, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock. You mean I can go home? I don't. I'm like, oh, I'm cheating.
Yeah.
I only worked 8 hours today. I only worked 10 hours.
Yeah, and
So-
as long as he's got his boys, he can still play in that excavator.
There you go. There you go.
All I want to do is run equipment. I don't want to do paperwork
And eat a steak dinner, right?
and eat a steak.
Okay, well,
dinner.
let's go do that.
Let's do that.